Hello everyone, I'm glad to speak about our experience in Iran. Our paper's title is Listening to the Children's Stories to a More Mutual Interaction. My name is Narges Sajjadieh and I am a professor assistant at University of Tehran in Iran, and now I am a visiting researcher in Zolanvari University in Finland. Both of my colleagues, Mohammadreza Madanifar and Fatemeh Zolanvari, are educational experts and work at Institute of Stalk of Thinking and Action in Iran. We think that the synchronized listening to the children's stories with telling stories for them can be helpful for mutual interaction between adults and children, and can be helpful for bridging children's world to the stories world. First of all, I want to respond to this question about who we are. We are attempting to tell stories, good stories and interesting stories for Iranian children. The stories with social, emotional and moral themes like tolerance, dialogue, kindness, respect for each other, etc. And this program was done at 2015, and I acknowledge Tafura Satikin for helping us to do this research at that time. But the big question here is, what is the problem? What is the central problem? As you know, stories can be very helpful for improving children's lives. Stories can create new words for children in which they can have new experiences, they can improve their lives, their relationships with others, and these vicarious experiences empower children for encountering the real world. We name these kinds of experience vicarious because they aren't direct experiences, and children may not have these experiences before. But we want to familiar children with these experiences, and we want to familiar them with these themes through stories. So story can enrich experiences, and experiences in turn can improve the life of the child. But one of the big challenges or difficulties can be mentioned here is that how children enter the story's world, or how can we enter children to the story's world? How can we bridge the gap between children's world and story's world? Because as you see here, we encounter with two different words, children's world and story's world, and we have to bridge the gap between them. In this paper, we attempted to bridge the gap between children's world and stories world by listening to the children's stories from their world, and we believe that this listening can connect these two different words together. So we can say that this paper have two aims. At first, we want to establish a schema for synchronizing telling stories to children and listening to their real stories from children. And at the second step, we want to understand how this synchronized scheme can enrich children's real life experiences. For realizing those aims, we defined three phases for our research. The phase 1 is planning. We attempted to plan a schema for a telling and listening story program. We attempted to design a program for synchronized telling stories with listening stories, telling stories for children and listening stories from children. And at the phase 2, we named here implementing. We attempt to do that program, implement that program with 5 groups of children aged 5 to 8 years. Whole number of them is 32. And at the last phase, we name examining. We tried to examine the influence of our program on children's lives. We interviewed the 25 volunteer parents of those children, asking about the presence of the central themes in the stories to their children's real life. In this slide, you can see our steps in the first phase of our research. Plan a schema for storytelling or story listening to or from children. It includes 3 steps. At the first step, we attempt to read the book with children. At the next step, we ask children about their relative real experiences, and at the last step, we make some handicrafts related to story and play with them. In this slide, you can see a picture from the first program. On that program, we read this book, A Sick Day for Amos McGee, for children, and have some dialogue with them. In this slide, you can see some examples of children's real stories. Children's teacher asked them to speak about their real experiences related to the book, and they started to tell us these stories. The first one is, one day my little brother wanted swinging, but he couldn't ride the swing. I helped him to get right the swing. He got happy. I got happy too. And another child said that, one day I gave one of my chocolate to my friend in the kindergarten. She got happy. Both of us were laughed. In this slide, you can see the second program and second book that we read for the children, The Rainbow Fish, and you can see the children were making their handicrafts. You can see here in this slide another children's real story. After reading The Rainbow Fish, that was about fear and being brave, she told this story. One night when the light was off, I thought that everywhere were full of monsters. When my mom turned on the lights, I understood that there was no monster in the room and there were things like drawers, libraries, etc. And in this slide, you can see the titles of those books. We use them in our programs. The first one is Don't Let Pigeon Drive the Bus. The another is How Full is Your Bucket, and the other one is Bear, Bird, and Frog. Our programs designed around them. And these are the other real stories that children were telling for us in those programs. The first one, he said that I think that a good friend is one child who doesn't beat me. And he continued these stories with the story of his friend. And the another story about a doll. She said that I have a doll, I like it, and I think that if my friend plays with it, maybe will be broken. So I don't like to give my friend my doll. If she wants me to give her my doll, I will say no. This story was telling in the book, Don't Let Pigeon Drive the Bus, and the skill for saying no. And you can see the making handicrafts in those programs and playing with handicrafts. For example, pretending play in which they assume that they get on the bus. And in the last phase, we interviewed with parents and we asked them two kinds of questions about the first one is that do children mention the theme of the story in their daily lives, and the second one is the theme present in their lives, and how is this present? And at the last phase, as I said before, we interviewed with 25 of parents, 25 of mothers voluntarily participated in our interviews, and you can see some responses in this slide. One of the mothers said, when I wanted to turn off the light last night, Zahra said that, oh mom, do you know that there is no any monster here? And we turned off and turned on the lamp and played with each other. Another mother said that when we were going to the dentist, she said that I'm brave just like the rainbow fish. I don't scare from dentist. And the other mom said that when he challenged with his brother, he said that let no fight. Maybe we are empty our bucket. And it is related to that book titled How Full Is Your Bucket. And the other said that when he saw his grandpa, he gave him a handcraft that he made before. And all of these mothers emphasized on positive influence of our program to their children's lives. And they said that children apply the story themes and experiences in their lives. So we can conclude that storytelling plus story listening can connecting story to the real children's daily lives and can recognizing children's agency in our lives. It helps children reenact and recreate the story's themes in their life words. So we can tell this to the children that you can tell your own stories, tell stories about things that you are learning and learn from other people's stories. You yourself can recreate your experiences and improve your life. And we can tell these to the parents and practitioners. Listening to children's stories improves children's experiences. This approach can enter us into the children's life worlds, help us to understand their concerns, and provide a situation for a fusion of our horizons. And at the end, thank you for your listening. Have a good time.